350, come on, 317, 400, yes! And the trigger is activated. I will show you how I made my own air quality smart sensor for Home Assistant for less than $5 and 10 minutes of my time. The name of the sensor that I'm going to use is hard to remember, AGS10, but this DIY project is very easy. On top, I will show you all the steps. Before we begin, let me explain what this sensor is capable of. AGS10 is a volatile organic compound sensor, or VOC for short. This is a device designed to detect and measure the presence of not very healthy things in the air. High level of VOCs indoor can pose health risks, including respiratory irritation, headaches, and other symptoms, making VOC sensors valuable tools for maintaining healthy indoor environments. Increased VOC levels means bad air quality, and such increasements can be caused by a lot of everyday stuff like candles, perfumes, cleaning products, craft products like glue and paint, cooking, and even some children toys. That is why I decided to DIY such sensor so I can monitor my indoor air quality inside Home Assistant and to make some notification automations if these levels hit the roof. I hope I managed to explain how important for your health such sensor is. And now I will show you how easy it is to make one or more for yourself. The needed parts for this smart DIY air quality sensor for Home Assistant are 4, and you may have some of them already. First thing that is needed is the AGS10 sensor itself, which costs around $1.50 in AliExpress. Next is the brain of the operation, namely the D1 Mini ESP8266, which cost less than $3 in AliExpress. I will upload ESPHOME on the D1 Mini, so it will be able to communicate with the AGS10 sensor from one hand and wirelessly with my Home Assistant from the other. But more on that later, because next thing that I need are 4 jumper wires to connect the AGS10 with the D1 Mini. Of course, any other similar wires will do the job just fine. And finally, I need a micro USB cable to power on the D1 Mini board and to upload the ESPHOME code initially. Link to all of the parts can be found in the video description. From the software part, Home Assistant is needed, preferably with the add-on store, as well as ESPHOME dashboard. The ESPHOME dashboard can be installed as a Home Assistant add-on, and that is why I said add-on store is a good to have option. If you don't have add-on store, or even worse, if you don't have Home Assistant yet, then feel free to register for my Home Assistant webinar, and you can find the link on your screen. The webinar is absolutely free. With that being said, let's make that VOC air quality sensor for Home Assistant working, starting with the wiring. Here is how I wired the AGS10 sensor and the D1 Mini. I connected the VIN pin on the AGS10 to the 3V pin on the D1 Mini. Then I connected the ground pin on the AGS10 to the ground pin on the D1 Mini. After that, I connected the SCL pin on the AGS10 to the D1 pin on the D1 Mini. And finally, I connected the SDA pin on the AGS10 to the D2 pin on the D1 Mini. That was the D1 Mini board and AGS10 sensor wiring. Next thing that I'm going to do is the ESPHOME upload, which I think is easier than wiring. This is my test Home Assistant environment, and I'm going to use the ESPHOME dashboard add-on. If you don't have such yet, just go to the add-on store and install the ESPHOME. Click on it, click on install, then start, and you have it in no time in your Home Assistant. Of course, that is if you have add-on store on your installation type, and the installation types that have add-on stores are Home Assistant, OS and Supervised. After you have ESPHOME dashboard, you can open it by clicking on this Open Web UI, or if you enable this Show in Sidebar switch, you have it here as well. It doesn't matter which button you click on, this will open your ESPHOME dashboard, and this is mine. I have a bunch of sensors here, most of them offline. These are my previous projects, test projects. And now the most important part here is to create a new one. And I'll click on New Device. I'll click on Continue on this dialog. And I'll name my future VOC air quality sensor here. For example, VOC air quality. I have no imagination at all. This is the simplest thing I can think of. Of course, you can choose your own name, it doesn't matter. And I'll click on Next. Then I'll select my board type. Because the D1 Mini that I'm using is ESP8266, I'll choose this option. The same project can work on ESP32, Raspberry Pi probably, and so on and so forth. But in our case, if you order the parts from the links in the video description, you should choose this option, ESP8266. And as you can see in the background, a new device is created. And I can install it right now, but it will be an empty ESPHOME configuration, and I don't want that. I want to add few lines of code, and because of that, I'll click on this skip button, then on this edit button to edit the configuration of the ESPHOME. I'll go to the last line. I'll create a new one actually, new line here, and then I'll paste the following code. Like that. Don't try to remember this code, just get it from the video description, but in general, we have three sections. One of these three sections is optional, and this is the web server. You can omit this section and all, you can delete it like that, or you can leave it inside. If you leave it, you will have a web server on your air VOC quality sensor, and you'll be able to open the sensor readings from any browser inside your home network by typing the IP of the device or the localhost name, and you see the readings right in front of you. No Home Assistant is needed at all for that part, so it depends on your choice, you can leave it or not. This part is mandatory. This is where the wiring is described. And if you wire your sensor the same way as I did, you should not change anything of these things right here. You can play around with the frequency, but from my tests I saw that the 10 kHz frequency is fine with this sensor, and I will not change it at all. And the last part is the AGS10 sensor section, where you can change two things. The name, this name will be visible in your Home Assistant after successful integration at later stage, and this update interval. I put 1 second here because I want to demonstrate you how this sensor is working in almost near real time, but it's not a problem to put 60 seconds here or whatever you wish, because this update interval is not so important. If you leave that sensor somewhere in the corner of your house and you check it from time to time, it depends on your needs. You can type milliseconds here and it's also fine, but if you don't want to change anything, just use the code from the video description and you'll be fine. Then I'll hit on save, and now is one of the most important parts. I have to connect this sensor, the D1 Mini, with the AGS10 sensor attached on it using a micro USB cable to the device where my Home Assistant is installed and running. You'll see why after I click on this install button. I have 4 options here, and I'll choose this third one, plug into the computer running ESPHOME dashboard. That is because the initial ESPHOME uploading should happen on the device where ESPHOME dashboard is running, and I should connect the device to one of the USB ports there. I'm using my ESPHOME and Home Assistant on a Raspberry Pi 4, I think, here. So I connected my future air quality sensor to one of the USB ports of the Raspberry Pi 4. Simple as that. And after that, I'll select this third option. Then I'll pick the server port, and the ESPHOME installation begins. This could take up to 10 minutes, so be patient. Use this time for something useful, like for example subscribing for my channel, because I'm planning to make a lot of videos like this and you will miss it otherwise if you're not subscribed. So please subscribe or like this video or share it to someone who is interested. It will help a lot, so thank you. Okay, 442 seconds later and even more, the compilation is almost done. This is writing the code onto my ESP8266 D1 Mini, and now I'm ready. Some not understandable characters right here, but that is usually a good sign. I'll click on stop. I'll close this editor and my VOC air quality sensor is online. I can try to visit it by clicking on this visit button. And great, it is working! I'm seeing the readings, which are 386 ppb, which is parts per billion. That probably means I have around 380 not good parts per billion of good parts in my indoor air, which it should be fine. And this is the log of the sensor. It is updated every second because I configured it that way. And here I must warn you about something. I did some tests before I shoot this video, and in some of the tests I saw an error which is cleared out after 1 minute of just doing nothing. This is the preheat error that I told you about, and if you see such an error after you flash your device or after you reboot your sensor, please wait a minute or two and it should be cleared automatically and you'll be able to see the readings. Simple as that. Okay, component AGS10 sensor cleared, warning flags. And now I have some readings, which is great. The next thing that I also want to talk about is these values, these readings. Initially, when I first flashed the sensor, these readings were thousands or even 10,000s, and gradually, after several minutes, they become a lower value. I have seen such a behavior with other sensors, so I think it's quite normal. All of that means that after you connect your device, you have to wait few minutes, and during these initial minutes, the readings will go down very rapidly. After some time, the readings will become more stable. Nevertheless, that's kind of a tips that I saw during my tests. Before we go to the Home Assistant part where the real fun begins, you can download my smart home glossary that is coming as one big PDF file that is full of smart home wisdom. And you can get it right now for $0. The most interesting thing here to me is how I can add this sensor in my Home Assistant, and this thing is very easy. I'll go to my overview section, I'll click on this big window here, the right side of the screen, then I'll press the C button to invoke this search command bar, and I'll type integrations, then I'll select navigate integrations, and somewhere here I should find the VOC air quality sensor ready to be configured. I just have to click on configure, then submit, and just like that I should have the VOC in my Home Assistant. Yes, success. I can add it in an area, but I'll leave it like that and I'll just click on finish. And if I go to my ESPHOME section under the configured label, I can see my ESPHOME devices, and somewhere here I can find the VOC air quality, and yes, I can see the ppb readings here as well. Now I can create automations and script based on this value. I also want to share something important with you. I searched online and I found some example ranges that can be used to tell if your air quality is good or not. And these ranges are from 0 to 250 ppb. The VOC content is OK, that means green. From 250 to 2000, it is a moderate risk, or you can color it yellow. And above 2000, the VOC are very high. This is dangerous level and you have to act. You have to open your windows or you have to go outside. Simple as that. And based on this range, I'll create a simple automation. I'll click on this plus button to create a new automation and I'll select this. Do something when volatile organic compounds concentration changes. And my trigger will be auto-populated. The only thing that I should enter is above state. That means if the ppb readings goes above some threshold, for example 400, do something. And do something will be my action. I'll click on add action and I'll search for persistent notification create. This service will create a new notification here in this notification sections and it will stay there until I clear it manually. So it is perfect for my tests. I'll type something here, for example, the VOCs are above 400. It doesn't matter. I'll copy this text and I'll add one more action, more useful one, but for good or for bad, this next action is not available in Home Assistant by default. You have to manually add it. I'm using Telegram Messenger to notify me on my computer, on my phone, on my watch, everywhere. And I have a video about it, how you can enable Telegram notification service in your Home Assistant. And I'll link that video in the video description. You can follow it. I'm using this notification service for years and it is working perfectly. I'll search for notification here and I'll select this one, send a notification with Telegram. Again, you don't have this notification service by default in your Home Assistant. You have to add it. You have to add some configurations in your configuration.yaml file and you have it. And the message will be the same and I'll click on save. The name of the automation will be the same as the text that I'm sending because it's faster that way. And my automation is ready. How cool is that? I'll click somewhere here, then I'll press the E button and I'll search for VOC because this is how my new sensor is called inside my Home Assistant. I'll click on this result and I'll see the current readings of my volatile compound, what was the name, VOC sensor. And now I'm going to use this nail polish remover and I'll put it under my sensor. This thing is smelling awful. I hate that. Let me turn on my camera. Okay, I'm ready. 297. Let's see if we will go above 400. 320. 350, come on, 317, 400, yes! And the trigger is activated and I have a new persistent notification. The VOCs are above 400 is the message. Let me check my Telegram. Yes, I also have the same message here. The VOCs are above 400 and I received a notification on my smartwatch. That means everything is working great. Let me try the same, but with something other. For example, this aftershave. At least this is smelling good. I like this nail polish remover. I open the VOC sensor again. 388 is the current state. And am I recording? Yes, I am. I'll put the sensor on top of this. No, nothing is changing. Why? They're going up, but yes, I managed to go over 400 ppb and my automation is activated, and again I have another message. It's actually two messages. Probably I have two more here. Yes, I have them. And that means my air quality VOC sensor is working good. And now check my playlist that is full with step-by-step guides like this one about different DIY smart sensors that are working with Home Assistant. Thank you for watching. I'm Kirill and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!